Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Bonsai Stuff podcast. It's me, Scott Martin, returning from a very brief break while I was flat out repotting, and it's good to be back. It's nice to not have my hands filthy with dirt and nails all chipped and broken and, filthy clothes as well and covered in dust. But anyway, it's a good time of year for me. It is something I really like to put my back into and really focus on. So I do apologise for the delay of the content with the podcast. But as I said, I'm back, and I've got some stories to tell about repotting, and also there's going to be an interesting story that relates to Dave Grohl, of all people. And I just want to talk also about your technique with repotting and why it's really important, and also talk about pot size when it comes to our pots and the stage of development that they've got. So should be an interesting podcast. And thank you for tuning in again. Thanks for all the kind words while I've been off the air for a little bit. I'm back at it. So you'll have these podcasts coming thick and fast now. So strap yourselves in and get ready for another good one. So I'd like to start this podcast by talking about how good technique matters. And it's something that's been flowing freely through my brain while I've been repotting. I know I talked in previous podcasts about wiring technique and all that sort of stuff, but when it comes to repotting, it's got to stand the test of time. You know, you're tying your trees in there for years and years, and doing it properly every time makes such a big difference to your trees, and successfully continuing to grow them, and just taking away any of those issues that you might have with a tree that moves in its pot, or worrying somewhere down the track, something goes wrong with your tree and you're chasing your tail. Why is this happening? Why am I being bothered with leaf burn? I've never had leaf burn on this tree before. Why have I now suddenly got a problem with watering my trees? Or why are the aphids coming in all of a sudden? What's happening? And you're chasing your tail with it. And I think for me, I try and eliminate a lot of issues before they happen, and you do that by doing things properly the first time. And it makes such a big difference to your stress levels when it comes to the difficult time of year. Southern Hemisphere, we're on the cusp now of heading in towards spring, and summer's not that far away, and it's really something you've got to be prepared for. And for me, it all starts with repotting and making sure that I get this done right. And trees that have been a bother for me for a while, last summer I kick myself every summer I do it, where I think you should have repotted that one, because now you've got such hard work to try and get it from here until the July August period when I repot most of my trees. And if I'd done it the year before, would I maybe have had more success with that tree? And I don't put it down to laziness. I just put it down to maybe an oversight or maybe a bad judgment call that tree can last another year before it gets repotted. So this year I've tried to correct that. I've still got a little bit of time left for repotting, and especially my pines and junipers. I've got another month coming up for doing all of that sort of thing. But this year I'd definitely focused heavily on my pines with repotting last year, so it means that this year is a bit of an easier ride for me. But my deciduous didn't really get done last year, and it was funny. I don't know whether it's got to do with COVID and what we had happen here, but my collection really seems to have spaced itself into two categories for repotting. Like every second year I'm flat out with pines, and the other year in between it seems to be my deciduous. So this year it was my deciduous, which is why I knew July would be a busy time for me, and hence the reason for the delay with the temporary pause on the podcast. But I'm happy to report back that I seem to be, I've got daylight now in my vision for my deciduous repotting. It appears to be 99. I won't say it's fully done, because there always seems to be one or two that jump in at the last minute, especially stock that I've got in development. And that's what I want to talk and lead into in a minute with regard to your pot size when you're repotting. But pretty much I target straight away my older trees, the trees that maybe have been in their pots a little bit longer, and they come out and they feel like they're made of solid concrete. You know, that root ball sets so damn hard that I'm surprised most times the pot doesn't break under the pressure that those roots force onto the ceramic. But you know, and I noticed that my hands really struggled this year. It felt like scratching at bricks with a tiny little chip, and never really getting anywhere. So my hands really struggled. And to celebrate, I've just had a nice day or two in sub-freezing temperatures down the coast having a surf. So that those ice baths felt great. You know, my hands went numb after about the first 30 seconds. So being in the water for a couple of hours at that temperature, you know, my hands actually today feel really, really good and ready to get back into repotting and helping other people repot trees. So yeah. Anyway, I just want to say that good technique and having the right instruction for it. You know, often you don't know what you don't know when it comes to these techniques. And I can't always say that the internet's your best friend when you're doing these sort of searches. I know what it's like for me when I search for anything else. There's a million and one ways to do the same thing, and how do you sort through the rubbish to find the gold when it comes to these things? And I just reiterate straight away, as I say all the time, that you know you find someone that you respect, you look at their trees and you go, yep, love it. They're well looked after, they're healthy. They don't just, you know, they haven't been just designed as a nice demo tree. They've actually stood the test of time. They're the ones you sort of reach out to and say, hey, listen, do you mind? You know, how do you do this? How do you do that? Or maybe dig deeper on their socials or their platforms that they've got where they may explain these things or show them to you, and that's where you can get the really nitty gritty of the techniques to use. But it's one of those things that I found that as I got more and more tired, like with anything I do with bonsai, it seems to be more dangerous, far more dangerous as I get more tired. You know, there was one point where I'd raked roots on this tree and I was scraping them down, and with my left hand I'm holding the tree by the trunk, a smooth bark maple, and I'm right hand I'm gouging away, and it's getting later and later, and I'm tired and thinking, no, this is the last tree. I'm not going to do any more tonight. You know, I've had enough some raking, and yeah, when that looks good enough, that's loose enough. Nice tree. Really want to make sure this is done right. Get my root scissors, cut, and I went, I'm just got to go around the back of the tree. And normally I'd rotate the tree around, but I sort of reached my hand around with the scissors and sort of cut, and I went through one of the fingers of my glove. Luckily, it didn't hit my skin, but when I stopped and I looked, I went, geez, that was, you know, another millimetre or so with those scissors, and that could have been, you know, pretty serious, nasty little cut you're giving yourself. So I slapped myself in the face, put the tree down, and went, no, get back to your good technique. Get back to, you know, when you're tired, this is what muscle memory is about. This is why, you know, people train so hard for things over and over and over to the point of exhaustion. So when they get tired, they still maintain that same level, that same standard. And that's why, you know, when you're running, you're training for a marathon or whatever, you run to 30, 40 Ks in your training, so you get yourself ready for what's going to happen when you do it for real. And that's what I just remind myself with repotting was, you know, it's about the good technique. It's about doing it properly. It's not hacking through this thing just to say, yep, got it done, I can go to bed now, sleep well. It's like this tree is going to be in this pot for 2 or 3 years. So by stopping and just going, take an extra 5 minutes, just slow down, get the root pruning right, you know, the tying techniques, the filling the soil, all that stuff. And it was just like, it's one of those moments where I just looked at myself and said, you know, just do it properly. Don't cut corners, just do it properly. And it was good. Like the tree finished lovely, tied in the pot nicely, everything got done right. I did get to bed a little bit later than what I'd planned, and I was buggered and I felt it the next day. But, you know, that tree, now I look at it and think, you know, that's going to be on a nice path now for the next couple of years, and I can expect the plans that I've got in place for it to come to fruition because I've done it the right way. You know, I've taken my time and I've pushed it along. So anyway, now the next thing I wanted to break into before I start talking about Dave Grohl is about pot size. And this is a common thing that I get asked about the pot size that I use on my trees, and sometimes it's seen as maybe a little bit too small, a bit too fine. That's cool. It's personal preference. For me, I make sure, you know, obviously horticulturally things are safe and sound, and I'd never do anything to endanger the health of the tree just to be artistic. I wouldn't go cut off every single root so it fits into a teacup and say that's art, that looks great, and then have the tree die in 3 weeks. So I always make sure that I've built the strength of the tree to the point that I've got enough fine feeder roots there, and maybe the repotting frequency for the smaller pots is higher than the larger pots because they do run out of the soil air space that they need to breathe and feed and grow. So there are, other than the photo that you might see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, there are other considerations that go on in the background. But it got me thinking that I didn't want it to be something that it automatically becomes the norm where you keep getting smaller and smaller pots, because there are times where I do have larger pots, where I do want to push the tree a little bit harder with its growth rate or whatever, and it sort of made me think when I was doing it for the podcast to think, okay, well, what are the parameters? What makes you choose a certain pot size or a certain size pot for your bonsai, for your tree? And it comes down to the same thing I've talked about for years: the stage of development. Is it a tree in development? What's my focus on this tree? What am I really trying to nail down on and make my objective for this next short period in this tree's life, for the next 2 years? What am I trying to do with this tree? And it's okay, well, if you're developing a trunk and you want sacrifice branches and you don't care about the ramification, then yeah, sure, by all means, keep it in a grow pot, black pot, whatever it is, and let it push out. But don't change your mind 6 months down the track and then suddenly go, hang on a minute, I don't want this thick, coarse growth anymore. I don't like these big scars that I'm getting. I want to get fine, delicate ramification, because, hang on, you made a decision when you repotted that you were going to try and achieve certain objectives, and the grow pot was the catalyst for that. And you can't sort of expect the tree to act a different way by then changing your mind partway through, because thick, coarse, aggressive growth means that you've got a tree with some pretty big wounds on it as well, and the wood, the fibres are further apart. It's more porous. It's more open than something that's been slow grown. So that's always the catalyst for me, is to look at it and go, well, what stage of development is this tree at, and what do I want to achieve? And putting it into a small pot, will that help me achieve that? Or putting it into a bigger pot, will that help me achieve that? Or is there somewhere in between where I'd say, look, I feel like maybe the tree's stalled a little bit. I need to improve the health of the tree. All right, so bang, horticulturally, health of the tree is number one. So therefore, okay, I look at it, and if there's a lot of fine, delicate growth on this thing, it's all right. So I don't want to go destroying my fine, delicate growth by throwing this back into the ground or into a massive container. It's like, how do I get that balance point? How do I get it where I can improve the strength and health of this tree, but still maintain the integrity of the design that I've got? And that's the really difficult part. And that's where the pot might be. It's not an enormous pot. It's not a tiny pot. It's the Goldilocks pot. It's somewhere in between where it's going to give, enough root growth, which will maybe allow for a few sacrifice branches to run out, and get aggressive, but allow you to maintain the rest of the silhouette of the tree. And, if you're focusing on that improvement of health and strength of the tree, then your focus isn't going to be to put it on display in a show capacity, right? So the pot that you're using, it doesn't matter if it's the right colour, if it's perfect for the tree, really, because it's achieving an objective for you to improve the health of the tree. That's all it's there for. It's a container. It can be a black plastic bucket. It doesn't really matter, because it's not doing anything other than maybe spending a year or 2 years for that tree to improve its health. And then when things will improve and turn around, you go, yep, now I'm really happy with it. Now what pot do I need to choose for this tree? Because I want to now make this back to being a displayable piece of art. And, the shoes have to match the haircut. Your pot has to match the foliage on the tree. Otherwise, you're going to be out of whack with it. So, and that's what really I come to every time I'm looking at my trees. And when it comes to me starting my repotting, because I know there's some places around Australia that are about to get into it or just getting started on repotting in the cooler climates, then, I try, from my point of view, to manage the trees that have got an issue first. my repotting for the trees maybe they had a slight weakness. I had leaf burn issues. I had watering problems. They're the ones that I get rid of first. They're the ones that I put on the bench and baby and really take my time with, make sure everything's spot on with them. And then as I sort of get towards the middle part, it's like the run-of-the-mill trees where I go, yep, no worries, this is churn and burn. This is the same thing over and over and over. Bring them out, scratch the roots off, trim the roots, put them back into the pot, screw them in, new soil, sphagnum moss, you're over there. Right, now you've got 3 weeks of TLC inside the workshop. And it's quite easy for me to get through those. And then the latter ones that I do are the trees that I've got in development. Not that I downgrade the soil that I use or downgrade the techniques that I use. It's just maybe they're in a different pot, or there's something more that I'm focusing on rather than the ramification of the tree. It's on that thickening of the trunk or developing a baby little seedling. So there are lots of changes to how I process them in my time frame. But the one requirement that I have of myself and that I'm strongly pushing across to you guys listening to the podcast as well is that with all the stuff that we do with bonsai, with every single thing, good technique matters, and especially when it comes to repotting. All right, so let's get to the interesting, fun part of the podcast, and this story came to me from a really good friend of mine, and she was at a seminar and someone was talking about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and Dave Grohl, and I love this story. As soon as I heard it, I went, oh my God, I can see how that relates to bonsai. And she goes, what do you mean? How does that story about Nirvana relate to bonsai? So hopefully everyone listening knows who Nirvana Cobain was. And Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl was originally the drummer in Nirvana. And he sort of had a very much a back seat. And the primary focus at that point in time in history with Nirvana was always on Kurt Cobain. He was everywhere. He was the pin-up boy. He was the main primary focus. And, reading a little bit about Dave Grohl, he was a bit reluctant to go sharing songs that he'd written when he was in Nirvana, and like I said, the world's focus, the media, everybody. And I remember Nirvana coming out when I was a teenager, and they were the Ducks Nuts. They were great, they were everything, and it was always I remember it was always about Kurt Cobain. And then through some pretty tragic circumstances, the world lost Kurt Cobain, and that's really sad. But that's not what the focus is. What the focus that I want to talk about is that Dave Grohl was in the background, and then after that massive, tragedy, when everything rightly so could have stopped for Dave Grohl and for music, we could have really lost potentially one of the future best bands in the world. Dave Grohl went on through adversity and started a band called the Foo Fighters. And Foo Fighters have gone on to win 15 Grammys. They've won Best Rock Album 5 times. They're Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Seriously, they are. If you don't know who the Foo Fighters are, then you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years. But they seriously are one of the best bands in the world. And what the focus was for the context of this talk that was talking about Nirvana and Dave Grohl especially was that there's so much focus on the rock stars. There's so much focus on the Kurt Cobains in the world that sometimes the Dave Grohls get missed and get left behind, when really what this company was saying they should have been doing was focusing and looking out for the Dave Grohls. And that, to me, even now, it's made the hair stand up on my arms, because it makes me think about our bonsai collections. And while we have our favourites, while we have the tree that is magnificent, while we have the tree that is a delight, there's Dave Grohls in our collections everywhere. There are bonsai that possibly have got the potential to be significantly better than anything you've currently got in your collection that you've got right now, with the right program, with the right plan in place, with the right strategy, with the right care and attention, that bonsai could be the best thing ever. Like I always think about it, I've said it before, that, I always focus for myself to have the best trees in the world. I know I never will. I've got lovely trees and I love them all, but my focus when I'm working on my trees is this bonsai, whichever one is in front of me with my wire cutters and my scissors, this is going to be the best bonsai ever in the world, ever. Like, people are going to think about this thing long after I'm dust and go, this is the most beautiful bonsai in the world. I know it. I'm realistic. I know that will never happen. But that's the attention and focus and detail that I give to that tree. And this talk about Dave Grohl being somewhere in your collection, just waiting for that opportunity, for that sparkle of sunlight to come through the clouds when you're walking around watering one day and just hit that tree just perfectly where you go, ooh, look at that. That's developed quite nicely. I wouldn't mind taking that one out and doing a bit of work on that one. It might be the start of a great relationship between you and maybe a tree that you'd shoved to the side and thought, well, you're okay, but you're not great. And I want to reiterate that it doesn't have to become, the best bonsai in your collection overnight. Just put it on the path. Include it in your conversations that you have about the work you're going to do. Include it in the primary, the first spot with repotting. Make it the one that gets done in that first batch that you've got that you really care about the most. Slide a couple extra ones in there, because I think it's probably something that I know I'm guilty of in history, and that's why I think that this talk about Dave Grohl, and that we should be focusing on the Dave Grohls, especially in our bonsai collection, because they're always there. They're always there, and it might take years and years and years to find them, or it might they might never be found. I know once I heard this a few weeks ago, I went out and walked around through my growing collection and went, actually, that's actually got a really nice trunk. And this one, imagine if this was like this, and I'm not just going to let it grow for another year. Like, I'm not just going to go, well, I'm developing the trunk, so bugger it, I'll leave it there and let it continue to grow. It's like, no, actually, make some cuts now. Like, let's work on the taper of this tree. Does it need to be repotted? You'd pushed it to the side and said, no, it's fine. But really, should it be repotted? And what about all the ones around it? They're all done around the same time. Should they be repotted as well? And it was just a change in mindset for me, and it made me look at all of my trees differently, because I definitely have my favourites. We've all got our favourites, and I walk through my collection, and I don't have a favourite. I've probably got about 20, I reckon, that are in my category that rotate through being my favourite ones. But this talk about Nirvana and Dave Grohl and Kurt Cobain, and where it's easy to focus on the Kurt Cobains, but the Dave Grohls are where the future is, then, it just, I don't know, just rang a real chord with me. And especially, I think, because I'd grown up in with Nirvana hitting their straps when I was, sort of 18, 19 years old, something like that. So they were massive, and, I love music, and I love Foo Fighters, and, this talk about it, I couldn't work out where the story was getting to. But when it got there, I went, oh God, that's me. That's us. That's our bonsai. Let's find those damn Dave Grohls. Now, if you've made it this far into the Bonsai Stuff podcast, you'll know that I am a pretty positive person when it comes to bonsai and to you and your bonsai. I really try and do as much as I possibly can to make it as uplifting as possible, because I know that there's a lot that we can all get from our bonsai. I know what I get out of them, and it's not just a living like I make now being a bonsai professional. I get a lot more from it, because that being around trees and touching green and whatever, it's so good for you. So good in so many ways that, I really wish that the bonsai community would grow, would triple, quadruple. I love it because there's a lot from it, and it raises a question with me as I was thinking about this, because I've had time away from this podcast, so I've had lots of time to sit in the background and just have a good hard think about stuff while I'm sitting there repotting and scratching dirt and all by myself. And I look around the workshop and it's just bloody filthy. There's stones and crap everywhere, and I just get to sit back and have a think about bonsai in general. And I have a note section in my phone where I jot things down, like a thought will race into my bloody crazy brain, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's great for the podcast. I want to talk about that. Yeah. And this one that came up that I thought would be ideal for talking about now to finish off this podcast, but also wrap up the first one back from a bit of a break, was how serious does bonsai need to be? And I mean that genuinely, because you and your drivers may be very, very different from me and my drivers, and from someone else that you speak to in bonsai, and I think that, and that's fine. That's no problem. Like, we don't all have to be the same. Like I said, I want to create the best bonsai in the world. That's ultimate goal number one. That is me. That's me. Create the best bonsai in the world that really lives forever, lives longer than 20 times what I'm going to in my lifetime. That's my ultimate aim: to have happy, healthy trees and to spread the good word of bonsai, and make sure that anyone that listens to this, or anyone that picks up a pair of bonsai scissors at some point or another, gets a bit of encouragement where the head drops down when something goes wrong, and make sure that I'm the one that says, no, it's all right, mate. Come on. Let's get back on that pony and keep going. It's not the end of the world. We'll get through it, and having that support network there that, maybe you haven't built for yourself yet. Well, that's me. I'm backstop. I'm there. And so to come back to this point, circle around to it, is how serious does it need to be? And I think that there's points where I come across parts of bonsai world, and it's possibly a bit too serious for what I enjoy, and then it becomes not fun. And I just caution everybody, as I always do, to be that positive light, to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and be dead serious. Like I said, I can't be any more serious, hand on heart, that I want to make the best bonsai in the world at one stage or another. That's my ultimate goal. But I'm not going to do it at the detriment of someone else. So you never build yourself up by crushing other people on the way up. You lift each other up and you support each other like a pyramid, and you get up there. You sort of, everyone gets to the top sooner or later, helping hands and all that sort of stuff. So while bonsai, the intent can be dead serious with it, you still got to accept that there's going to be fun times with it, there's going to be enjoyable times, and there's going to be some not so serious times with it as well. And I've seen things with shows and whatever, where there's really good people around having fun, and maybe it gets a bit too serious at times and can take away from the aspect that everyone's doing their best and whatever else. So anyway, I just think that that's a question that we all, as bonsai practitioners in some shape or another, need to practice and sort out for yourself how serious it's going to be. And while you can be deadly serious with your design intent and how you manage it, and really put boots and all into this thing, this hobby that we've got, this fascination we've got with little trees, it doesn't need to be at anyone else's expense. That's my point, I suppose. That it can be very serious, but it has to be fun for everybody. If it's not fun for someone around you, then you're doing the wrong thing. So anyway, and I just wanted to finish off this podcast before the wrap up too. There's for anyone in Australia, you'll know a fellow called Bruce McAvaney. He's a commentator, a sporting commentator. You may even know him overseas. He does a lot of horse racing and football and all that sort of stuff. And he was recently inducted into the AFL, Australian Football League Hall of Fame. And he gave a quote at the end that he was being asked about where how he feels he's done with his commentating. And I really like Bruce. He's retiring and stepping back from things now. And this quote that he gave really struck a chord with me, where he said, "I felt like I did my best, but I felt like I could do better." And that's how I feel about my bonsai. That I do my best, but I reckon I can still do better with it. And it's a nice way to look at your trees. I think that you look at one that's really at the sharp end of design and just have that little thought in the back of your head, it could be better. And that's not to be derogatory against yourself and hard and negative and saying, you've done a crap job. It's sort of like, it's great, but it could be greater. There's always room for improvement. And I think that's possibly why I personally love bonsai as an art form. But, there's so many sides to it, so many angles to bonsai that so many people can get things out of. And I love it when I see someone who just wants to learn how to grow a tree in a pot. They're not really caring about the design side of it initially. Just how do I keep this thing alive? It's always the common start. But I did my best, but I feel I could do a bit better. That's me in a nutshell, I suppose. And just like that, we're done. The return episode number 25 for 2023 is done. So thank you for sticking around if you made it this far. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Bit of content there. If you are wrapping up your repotting, congratulations. If you're about to get into it, commiserations. No, I'm just joking. But like I said, it's it is really to reinforce that good technique matters with everything we do with bonsai. Whether it's I was contacted by a mate the other day about focusing on their technique and stuff, and it was really nice, really reassuring to get those messages about it. It's like, yeah, that's great. If we can all do that, if we can all just focus and do the best we possibly can at the time, I'm sure it'll improve. And it's one of those things where I guarantee you, whatever you do today and take photos of, I hope somewhere in the background in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, you look back at those photos, your memory will say, best job ever. You'll look back at the photos and go, actually, it could have been better, because look what's happened now. Like it's this continual improvement that we do with ourselves and our techniques and our bonsai that really keeps pushing them to go to that next level as well as yourself. And that's what we've all got to have, As soon as you become a closed book with bonsai, sell your trees, pack up your tools and put them away, because it's, your journey's done. And I don't think the journey's done for anyone. I think it's continual, and you should maximise it. And that should be a spark every time you look at the tree. You're going to learn something new. You're going to do something new. You're going to experience something new. You're going to have a new plan. That tree that was great, it's going to be greater. So that's where we're at. And also look for your Dave Grohls. I reckon that's one that struck a chord with me. Hopefully it did with you too, because every time you hear the Foo Fighters from now on, I want you to think of the Bonsai Stuff podcast. Anyway, until next time, as always, happy bonsai.